A couple of new kids arrive in the class. Maybe they come from a very strict culture, a Chinese school in Malaysia, 40 kids to a class, so everybody has to shut up. And they come in and go, oh, you dare speak to the teacher like that?
Imagine this, you are 15 years old, you're in school, you have ideas, you have opinions, and maybe even a dream to do something and to start something of your own. But more than that, every time you try to start something, you are told that it's not yet your time. You have to focus on your academics. You have to, attend maybe workshops to learn first because your time is not yet now. But now for you, the time is to study and to learn. And then this begs the question, if we call our youth leaders of our future, at what point do they suddenly know how to be, right? Because leading and being a leader is also a skill. And these are some of the things that we will be talking about today. And more specifically, you will be talking about the difference between youth empowerment and versus youth activation. If you don't know what that is, I will be explaining that in a little bit. But before that, welcome back to yet another episode of Mischief in the Pantry. If you don't know, Mischief is the name of this cat. This black cat is called Mischief because she's also mischievous. Don't ask. We love this cat here. So today, in this episode per se, we will be talking about what's happening in the world of education, right? Are we doing enough to equip our youth to make sure that when it is time for them to do something, are they ready to do it? Or is that even a question when the time comes? Will the time ever come? Or is the time now? So these are some of the things that we have in store for you today. And to have this wonderful conversation, I have two very, very special guests with me today. And let's begin with their introduction first. I think I will start with our first guest, which is Dr. Vincent Chian. Dr. Vincent is the COO of the Fairview schools. And before I go further, maybe Dr. Vincent, you want to tell people a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. How long do I have?
1 minute, right?
Okay, easy. I used to be a psychiatrist. I wasn't always a teacher. I used to work and spend all my time helping people who are depressed become better. And I chose to come back to Malaysia, join education, and build stronger people instead of holding their hands when they've fallen down. I've been a teacher, an IB diploma coordinator, a principal, and now I'm the COO.
If I can add something, Dr. Vincent is also a really great business coach. And so if anyone of you out there is interested to look for a business coach, this is me asking you to go and talk to Dr. Vincent. I'm pretty sure you will learn something in every conversation because that has definitely been true to me. So thank you so much, Dr. Vincent, for being here today. Secondly, we have Gerard Salonga. Needs no introduction, honestly, but if you are wondering, if you're one of those people who don't own a TV or something or don't own the internet, Gerard is basically the resident conductor of the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra. He is also leading the Malaysian Philharmonic Youth Orchestra and also leading a bunch of other initiatives recently into ASEAN and all that. But don't hear it from me. Let's ask Gerard. Gerard, tell our audience what you do.
Hello everyone, my name is Gerard Salonga, and here in Malaysia at least, my main activity is that I'm the resident conductor of the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra, and I've held this position since 2019, and Malaysia really is basically home now, yeah, and I love it here.
Can you tell our audience what does it take to be a conductor? The journey.
Wow. I'm the wrong guy to ask because my path to being a conductor is long and convoluted.
That's what I in the audience should know.
For many people, there's a very straight path. They go and get a degree in performance or composition, and then they get a master's degree in orchestral conducting, and see where the chips fall, see where the breaks go, which way the breaks go. For me, I did not study to be a conductor. It was not even in my sights. It just sort of happened through a series of extremely fortunate accidents. And one day I ended up here.
That is, someone said to me recently, accidentally ending up doing what you're doing is the best way to be where you are, right? As opposed to, I don't know, because the same is true for me too. A lot of people sometimes ask, and how do you end up doing what you do today? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just somehow you ended up here, right? All right, let's move into like the chunk of our conversation today. And we want to talk about both of your work with the youth, right? Dr. Vincent, I mean, obviously you lead a bunch of schools, and Gerard, for you, you have a lot of initiatives that specifically look at like getting youth to be more involved in like music in some way, right? But the first question I want to ask is the difference between youth empowerment and youth activation. And for those of you listening, if you're wondering, in our thought process, right, youth empowerment is more of like giving them the skills and maybe the training or the knowledge to one day be able to do something. So that's empowerment, equipping them with knowledge and skills and tools. But youth activation is getting them to do it now, right? You are activating them right now. So we do see it as a process. So obviously you have to start with empowering them with knowledge and skills and tools first. But a common thing that we are seeing in Malaysia is that the empowerment happens now and a lot, and we don't know when the activation will come in. I'll give you an example. In a lot of the schools or even youth organizations or even corporates that we work with, when they want to do like a youth initiative, they'll be like, oh, let's do like this workshop. Let's teach them about like online safety, internet safety, for example. And we will give them with the tools to understand it, right? And when I ask, okay, but what's the outcome? They understand it, but they can do more than just understanding things, right? So what do you want the outcome to be? And more often than not, the answer I get is, oh, the outcome is they get a certificate. And it kind of like ends there. So as people who are really experienced in working with the youth, I'm curious about your thought about this.
I want to hear you answer this
Okay,
one.
Dr. Vincent.
I'll start. Okay. It's a long one.
Oh, you're ready.
So first of all, I want to address, as a society that is so competitive, we are obsessed with a false sense of security that we are performing and we have an advantage over others. That's a huge obsession. I mean, we joke about it in Chinese families, but frankly, it's everywhere. Everybody's got this. Okay. It transformed, and this is the progression from my son has more A's than you do. Okay, for many years that was the standard of performance. Okay, and then it moved on to okay, well everybody's got 7 A's now because we're all going to tuition class anyway, memorizing all of our past year papers. To my son now performs at the orchestra. My son can do taekwondo. He's got a black belt, and my son does. So it became how should I say? It became performative. It became a checklist. As a society, this is what we do. Now, why do we see this obsession with activation and empowerment and not activation? I think it's just the stage thing. At one point, we were obsessed with just informing people about things, and that would be the old school style education system. You sit people in a classroom and just yell at them and blah 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 blah. Memorize what I say kind of stuff. And then skills, the word skills suddenly appeared in our vocab somewhere around 2010. And the whole world went, oh my gosh, we got to teach skills. And then you got to ask them, well, what skill are you going to teach? And I still remember a funny thing with skills. I went to a teacher, very expensive school, very well paid guy. And I said, well, do you teach skills? You are and I was a very young teacher at the time. You're such a role model to me. He said, yeah, of course I teach skills. And what skills do you teach? He said, I teach them presentation skills. I thought, wow, this guy's amazing. I said, how do you teach them presentation skills? And he says, well, I get them to present and eventually they'll get it. And I thought, oh my God, this guy's a moron. It's just like the other day I played badminton. No, not the other day. In Manchester, when I was a younger guy, I played badminton against a friend of mine who was from Sarawak, and he was a national Sarawak player. And I play a lot of badminton. This guy was a national badminton player. I served. He hit it once, and I heard the sound that he hit it with, and I thought, I've lost straight away. There's a difference between knowing how to perform and practicing a lot. And a lot of the time, we're obsessed with practicing a lot, right? So there's when you learn something, there's the knowledge component, there's the skill component, the repeatable steps to go through something to get a consistent result, and then there's the application component. And then what we very often forget is the reflective component. What did I do wrong so that I can improve? Performative obsession results in this whole empowerment. Let's go for a workshop. Let's get another certificate. Let's get this. Let's get that. And then I used to get IB diploma students coming in for scholarship, and they come in with a file that thick, full of certificates. I was just thinking, well, have you done anything good with your life? Have you helped a single person? And the answer is almost always, yeah, I participated in school fundraising, and I was the president, I said, what did you initiate? What great idea did you initiate? What problem did you solve? And sadly, I don't usually get my teacher taught me to do this. Now, another interesting one I was thinking on the way here, we do a lot of activation actually in government schools. And there's a lot of CCAs. And I always hear my friends say, oh, my son's a president of this, not that kind of stuff. And I was thinking, I remember talking to these guys, a couple of these presidents, and I was like, well, you seem to have so many things you're doing, yet you don't know how to do anything. Or you have so many opportunities to activate, or I used a different word, to lead, right? But, what were you leading? And they all don't know what they're leading. They just want to be the president. And I was like, okay, there's so many opportunities. Why is this happening? Is it intentional? Is it by design? Do we design the leadership development process to install these presidents? Or was it simply a case of simple abdication? I think the latter, frankly. And this is a pandemic across all of the schools. Oh, you teacher, you're in charge of that club. Okay, I'm a teacher. You're the president. Good luck. And then
they're
off you
getting
go.
Obsessed with getting a bunch of certificates, each on different areas.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, they don't quite have even one thing that they're really focused on, right?
Well, there's no purpose behind their action. Their purpose is not this crazy lifelong goal. It's, why am I doing this? The simple understanding of meaning and purpose. There's none of that, because it's not intentionally designed into the learning experience.
So speaking about purpose, what about you, Gerard? In your experience working with young people, what do you notice when it comes to empowerment versus activation?
Well, with what we do, activation is a necessary component in empowering empowerment. We don't treat them as two separate things. Okay, a kid takes instrumental lessons, takes violin lessons with a good teacher. Eventually, they're going to play a recital. And this recital will spur them to work harder when they take their lessons and go back to the practice room. And it's a cycle that just keeps on going until they've achieved a certain level of competence on their instrument, or when the talent starts to reveal itself. Because one of the difficult things with learning an instrument is you sound terrible for a very long time before you start sounding good. It's a delayed gratification, and it takes a lot of patience, a lot of perseverance, staying the course. But you do these recitals, these performances, there's always a performance component. So, for example, with a kid studying the violin, they'll study the first book, they'll study the second book, and they'll do a recital amongst peers or within a group. They might be playing the most basic thing, but it's that performance that spurs them on when they go back into empowerment mode. So one doesn't end with
It's
the
like
beginning
a
of
continuous
another.
cycle.
Yeah. So the empowerment prepares you for the next activation, and the activation informs your next stage of empowerment. And same thing with sports. I used to play a lot of competitive golf when I was a kid. So, okay, my father taught me, I got a teacher. And then when I finally started joining tournaments, that made me practice even harder. That made me take the lessons more seriously because I wanted to be able to compete. So during summer, you're competing every week. You're playing 72-hole golf tournaments every week during the summer. And that's what drives you. That need to do well is what sends you back to hitting hundreds of golf balls again, the next day. So it's really, people shouldn't see them as two separate things, I don't think. I mean, the empowerment phase or the empowerment side is fed by the activation and vice versa.
Like, this fits into like what Dr. Vincent said earlier, right? The application and the reflection that comes when you join a competition, for example. Like when I joined uni, it was like the first time ever I was exposed to competitive debating. I couldn't like speak English that well, and I joined debating to learn how to speak better. And I remember the first few classes, I felt, oh my God, so stupid. Like you hear all these other people in class, and they could express themselves very well, and they could like really say what they mean, and I couldn't. So I remember that feeling of wanting to say something but couldn't, because I couldn't string the right sentence, or I couldn't say it in the way that I wanted to say it. And then even before I could like get better, my coach was like, you know what, Em, you're going to a competition. I was like, oh gosh. And I was like I convinced myself that after the competition, I'm sure I'm going to quit. Like, for sure, I'm going to quit. And then I went to competition and I saw like so many people doing it. And I went, like, if they can do it, like, I think I can. So you are right. Like the moment you attend like competition or like performance in your line of work, it kind of like, what is it? A sense of competitiveness, or maybe like you see your other peers doing it. Maybe you get inspired. Maybe you think like, if they can do it, maybe I can too, right? And then you hear people who are like closer to where you are at, maybe, and then you're like, see, they don't give up. Like all of these things come into play, and I think that in itself is the value of like sticking through it, like not giving up. That's the perseverance and resilience that you talked about earlier. So I want to talk about that. So you've worked with kids throughout for a long time. Is it true that our current generation right now is the least resilient generation that you have ever worked with? Because that's what people are saying.
Well, you're seeing kids all the time, and they're like revolving door, a school, So what have you noticed a pattern?
It's
You see, and that is an answer in itself, right?
Dealing with failure, for example.
So, I think in my observation, the children of today, and this would be observing the more sentient levels. I'd say the higher secondary, because the younger ones are still play and tell and all that. It's not that they're the strawberry generation. It's that a lot of the time they know their boundaries and how to enforce it. And that makes the previous generation, who are not used to these boundaries, mislabel them and their boundary as refusal to work for all sorts of reasons. And then we mislabel and so on and so forth. So I would say that the current the generation coming through, what I'm observing is they are fast, very fast. They are, when they want to, they are extremely driven, very aware. This is the most aware generation I've ever seen. Like a secondary 2 kid can tell me about, the Iran war and why it's kicking up oil prices and what's happening around the world in Ukraine and why that's connected. They can tell me these things. And I remember when I was in secondary 2, I was just playing computer games. It's a complete difference. But this generation is also more intelligent, emotionally intelligent. They're aware of how they feel, and they've learned how to set boundaries. And I think if the other generations, I think we need to play a little bit of catch up as well, because it's not a bad thing. We just need to learn how to work with it, and maybe we could learn a little bit from them too.
How do you then reconcile? Because reports like worldwide are now saying that the current generation we're seeing in school these days, it has like the lowest level of skills that we have seen. Like you compare like every single generation, and the current generation is the first in the history of like human beings to have the skills that is lesser than their previous generation.
I'd be very careful with that statement, really, because I tend to find that the kids have a different set of skills, the ones that aren't historically measured. AI skills, research skills, coding skills. They have a lot more skills than we currently have the lexicon prepared for. And I think that's the problem. If we measure a fish by his ability to climb a tree, we can't really say the fish is useless because it's the wrong measurement. And a lot of the time, I'm in IB school and we don't use percentages. So I constantly have to explain to people that the measurement determines what you view as success. If you don't examine how you measure something, then you don't know what you define as success. And then your definition of success or what you're of good is different from mine. So you're saying that they don't have resilience and grit and so that skills. And I'm saying, actually, wait, maybe our definitions are just wrong in itself. And that's where the conversation needs to be.
Interesting. I'm going to pause that because I'm interested in what Gerard thinks about this. Where do you fare in this conversation?
Again, it depends on, I agree with him, resilience in the face of what? It all depends on what kind of adversity they might be facing. During my mother's time, resilience meant surviving a war, surviving a food shortage.
How long you can walk to school?
Yeah, when I was growing up, it was how long are we going to survive this power outage? That was a test of one's resilience, dealing with no power for 12 hours. Or high fuel prices. I mean, there are many things that would test one's resilience. But there are things that train resilience into people. Just as we were speaking of earlier, the amount of time that it takes to become good at an instrument hasn't changed, hasn't become more efficient. Pieces that took 30 minutes a century and a half ago still take 30 minutes. Now, you can't play Beethoven 9 faster for a bigger return. It doesn't work that way. With fewer people, it doesn't work that way either. Right? The choir still has to be that many people. And the amount of time it takes to go from beginner to professional musician is roughly the same. The levels that kids reach now, though, everybody says without reservation that orchestras all over the world are of a much higher technical standard. There are many more musicians now of a higher technical standard because of the access to information. Back in the 1950s, there are people who had to take a boat, take a ship to go from Southeast Asia to New York to go study in Juilliard. But now you can talk to a professor in Juilliard right now on your phone. Take a lesson with them on Zoom. So, I mean, resilience has to be very clearly defined as to it is a resilience against what sort of adversary. Because kids are quick. I understand that exactly what he said because my kids are 19 and 16. So I know how fast these kids are. They just know stuff that I didn't know at that age. They're smart. The access to information is incredible, and they take advantage of that. Even the kids that I speak to in the orchestra, I tell them all the time, there's just no reason for you not to know stuff. Because I had to go to Tower Records to get my first recording of Mahler's First Symphony. You got it on your phone right now.
Spotify,
Yeah, right?
YouTube.
You've got it. You can watch the Berlin Philharmonic play it now. I had to go to Tower and take a risk. Is this recording going to be good? Because you can't open it and listen to it. Yeah. Right? You take it home and then you find out. Yeah. And even before that, you had to listen on the radio. I still remember when my dad came home from a business trip with the Berlin Philharmonic box set of all 9 Beethoven symphonies on reel-to-reel. Do you remember those open reel tape decks? That's what we listen to music on.
When you say reel-to-reel, I think of Instagram reel.
No.
You mean
it's a reel of tape.
Reel. Okay, yeah.
You got to thread it through the machine and get it onto the other reel and start playing
That is so cool.
Yeah, but the things could get mold. In a humid environment like Manila, we had to take the mold off the tape every so many months.
So they have convenience now, but the resilience perhaps comes
Maybe it's because of
differently.
It's because we had to wait for these things, and they didn't. They don't. But then again, there are certain things that they learn that take the same amount of time as they did for the last 150 years.
So, okay, I want to build on that. So, we have established that resilience look differently for like different generations, right? And that makes absolute sense because like Gerard explained and you explained in, I want to say our generation, but maybe like in your generation.
Ooh.
So
Can I
maybe
step out of his
resilience-
generation a bit, you know?
Okay, in our generation, resilience looked like, difficulty getting that information, like lining up to buy something, right? Which it's not really like the reality of our students these days. So how do you think, because we're talking about how do we activate them, and to activate them, we need them to be able to persevere. We need them to be able to like develop their resilience and stuff like that, right? So how do you build resilience amongst your students, like in your group, at school? What do you do now to kind of like develop that resilience so that they don't fail once and then, right, that's it, I'm bad at this? Or what can we do in this day and age when their struggles are so completely different than ours?
So first, I think we need to look at resilience a little bit deeper. To me, resilience is a tool. It's not the end game. It's just something that you acquire along the way. Resilience, grit, analytical skill. These are all just tools. What we need to build in our kids is a sense of agency, ownership, purpose. These are the proper endpoints, not the tools. They're just tools. I may need resilience to get there. I may not need it. It is irrelevant. But agency, where a child says, I don't know whether I'm going to succeed, but I'm going to try anyway. That should be the end point. And along the way, they will build what they need to get to that end point. And that's the way that all, people speak about entrepreneurs so well. That's exactly what they're doing. They have a sense of agency, and that's what sets them apart from everybody else. Now, how do you develop a sense of agency? I remember, Jordan, there's a psychiatrist, I forgot his name, really great guy. Basically, if you want to learn how to do anything and you fail, simple answer, start smaller. So let's just say I'm going to say, I want you to eat less. Don't say only one meal a day, suddenly go fasting or something like that. No, let's reduce your plate by 1 spoon a day. And if you can't handle that, half a spoon. We'll start there. Start smaller. Start small, even small. And for parents, here's a simple one. Kids, I'm going to let you choose where to eat out once a week. How small is that? That is pathetically small. Or which shampoo to use. Buy 2 shampoos and say, which shampoo are we going to use today? Start really small and build up steadily from there. You're not going to get agency by saying, you're the president of the debating club. Now make it amazing. That's too big a jump, and that's a problem. A lot of adults do that. And the problem is actually we have all these kids going into the workplace. We don't teach them skills. We don't prepare them for all of that. And suddenly they're at the workplace and the boss says, solve this problem. They go, what? That is a huge jump. And I was never prepared with any small step along the way. And that's what I would probably do. A, don't teach resilience. That's just a thing by the way. That's not the end point. Go for the agency, sense of purpose, meaning. And B, start really small. Can I throw in one more thing? The easiest way to find a sense of purpose and meaning, easiest one is, what big problem or what problem am I going to solve today? And because all great meaning in life comes from solving problems. And when you dedicate yourself in service to others and solving a problem that everybody else has, it becomes that sense of satisfaction, meaning, so on and so forth. It's the simplest way of doing
That
things.
is so interesting because we believe in the same things, but like semantics. Like for me, purpose is harder to find. Like purpose is not something that comes naturally to me. But
I think the way my mother raised me is just to be resilient. So whatever I want to do, at the back of my head, I know I'll be fine if I fail, or when I fail, more like, I know I'll be fine, because it's just, it's failing and getting back up and trying again. I know how to do that. So I might not be able to say my passion is music, or my passion is like movies, or my passion is writing. Because when I was growing up, I was like one of those kids, like, what do I do? I'm not quite sure about anything. But knowing that all I need to be successful in life is to be resilient. I think that kind of like really framed the way I approach even my adult life, and even like as an entrepreneur. Failure doesn't really scare me. It is more like it excites me. Oh, okay, if we fail, that means I will know how to do it better next time, right? And my purpose have always shifted. Like, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in that. And I approach it with the same kind of resilience and interest. And if turns out it's not for me, then, I'll move on and I'll find something else. But I know I'll be fine. So it's like slightly different. So for me, resilience is not just a tool, a by the way thing that you get along the way. For me, resilience is really what you want to make sure you have, so that if you're the kind of person who knows exactly what your interest and purpose in life is, you can kind of like you'll be like relentless, And if you're more like me, who's not quite sure what you want to do in life, I feel like I can try this, I can try this, I can try this. And the beauty of having this knowledge, like, I'll be fine if I fail, because I failed before, right? So I think like that's like two completely different approach, but similar outcomes, I would say. How do you feel about this,
Well,
Gerard?
the way you were describing it now sounds to me more like it's a character trait, the ability to endure. And that is a character trait, a personal character trait, could be also a cultural trait. You see a lot of successful countries claim resilience as the reason they were able to achieve certain things. So for them, it was both a trait and a tool to achieve a certain purpose. I like both of your answers because they both apply to where I have most of my energy spent. With kids and with a professional symphony orchestra. Art exists maybe not to solve a specific problem, but to fill in voids in people's lives.
I think that's a specific problem.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loneliness is unfortunately
No,
a problem.
the lack of beauty, appreciation for beauty and aesthetics is a big problem.
There's some music that is politically charged, that forces people to think critically, ask difficult questions. If you read about a Russian composer named Dmitri Shostakovich and his relationship with Joseph Stalin, then there's actually a documentary about it starring Ben Kingsley as Shostakovich. It's called Testimony. So
On
look it up.
Netflix?
It's on YouTube.
Okay.
You can watch it, yeah, and it's fabulous, and it just shows that music can be used for certain purposes, or as a means to fight back against oppression and so on. But with kids, this resilience building, because it's not easy. By the time you get to a certain level, the ones who can't handle it have already dropped out. So, yeah, when you get to a certain level, like a youth orchestra, there's a high level of playing. The ones who are there are the ones who could handle the struggle. Because that's how you describe resilience, as the ability to withstand a struggle and come out battered and bruised, but still kicking.
Yeah, basically. That sounds so like badass. Like I'm gonna use that definition
Yeah.
from now onwards.
Yeah. But there's that. You know that they had the. But a lot of the kids that I've spoken to, surprisingly, much more than in previous generations, they know why they're doing it. They know why they're a musician.
So the kids in the previous generation have a stronger sense of purpose.
The ones
Now has a stronger sense
they
of purpose.
they know exactly why they're a musician. They know why they want to be a musician, or they know why they're studying music, even though they won't be a professional musician. They know exactly what's going on. They know the why of what they're doing and not just the how. I think because they have the why, they can they're they can ask how. I was recently conducting in Shanghai, and it had been what 12 years since I'd been there. The last time I conducted there, so I talked to the promoter of the concert. We had coffee, and I go, something's different over here. The vibe is just so different now than it was 12 years ago. And I go, what's going on? And he commented, he knew exactly what it was. And he says, oh, just the general movement of the people, the way they are, it's because they've stopped asking why they do something, and they ask, how am I going to do it?
So that fits nicely into my next question. So you're dealing with youth right now. What do you think motivates the generation now to step up? They found their purpose, they want to try, they want to be better. Like you deal with, again, students all across, right? So if, let's say, you find a student who is struggling to step up, like struggling to take on a challenge, for example, so how do you usually motivate them? I guess that's the question. Because we got a lot of these parents, question, by the way, from parents. Like, I need my kid to do this, I need them to do that, but they're not quite motivated. So usually at the back of my head, I'm like, maybe they're not interested in it, Like, that's always like a thought that I have at the back of my head. But this is like a seriously, like, parents are really asking us this question. So how do we motivate them when they feel like defeated, when they feel like they don't want to continue anymore? To what extent do we push them to continue and build that resilience? Because you build endurance by enduring, right? So how do you balance the two?
I give a lot of credit to the teachers, the people who they come into direct contact with these kids. I mean, in an orchestra, they're not alone. They have their colleagues to help them up, help push them along. And when they see other kids just like them playing at a certain level, then it inspires them to go and practice more. But the ones who are in direct contact with them more than I am are the teachers. So that's really, if parents should be really selective or have a really strong sense of participation in finding teachers for their children.
So let's ask the teacher.
Yeah. Actually,
So
in music, actually, a lot of kids go to certain schools, not because of the school,
Because of the
because
teacher.
they're following a teacher there.
Yep, for sure. So how do you motivate your students?
So this is a big, I've done a lot of work in this arena. Let's start with this. I don't believe that anyone in the history of humanity has ever done anything great because he got scolded. I want to start with that. Our natural
Or
reaction.
got nagged into it?
Yeah, you didn't practice your 2 hours, 3 hours today. Why you didn't practice? What's wrong with you? Go and practice. You know how much money I spend on a teacher? I mean, this is I used to get exactly that narrative for my grade 8 exam, or whatever else. The idea of scolding somebody into greatness is so well practiced, it's hilarious. Intuitively, we know it's rubbish, but every parent does it. Okay, so the first thing I would say is take that, put it in the bin. Support, not condemnation. If you can remember that and do it, you're well on your way. Support, not condemnation. Now, what on earth is support? And I'm going to give you the most scientific phrase. The first thing I teach teachers, because I teach teachers at the university, to be a great teacher, you don't need skills. The first thing you need is 2 words: positive expectations.
Totally agree on that.
And it's so simple. So I say, what is this? Okay, so you look into a kid's eyes, right? And then you say, even no matter what you've done before, I believe that you can and will succeed. And I'm here waiting for you to do it. That's it. That's summed up in what's one phrase. If you can do that as a teacher to every single student, they're going to go. All right. They're going to fly. That is the most powerful thing you can do. And there's wonderful research to support this. You don't need tool sets and fancy techniques and all the rest of that jazz. No. You simply say, I believe you can do it. Now, here's the second part. The practice then becomes, you can't play piano properly. Okay, that's okay. Can we do 15 minutes today? Just start small. Just 15 minutes. Tomorrow, can we do 16 minutes? Small. What do parents do? Let's do 3 hours. No. Start small. Then follow that with, that was a fantastic 15 minutes. Tomorrow, that was a fantastic 16 minutes. Well done. I really enjoyed that. Beam with it. And support. We're so afraid of being taken advantage of as adults that we actually, what would be the right word? Leach this sentiment into the way that we treat children. If I tell him he's good, he's going to get it to his head and then and then he's going to just, slack off or something. We're so afraid of being taken advantage of that we defend ourselves with this sort of condemnation type behavior, believing that it works. So simple stuff. Don't condemn, support, positive expectations.
Yep.
Very, very basic. Everyone can do this.
One thing that I absolutely believe in practice, I mean, even for my team, is when we have a conversation about like expectations, where they are right now and where they need to be, that line you say, I also learned it from a research, and I have my own version, and I will say basically, this is what you put out, this is what I like, these are what need to be improved, A, B, and C, and I end it with, I am very confident in your ability to get there. That's it. But I'm also very clear on because feedback is very important. You can't just expect them to improve if you don't give them the constructive feedback. Like this one, maybe you're a tad bit too fast here, maybe. So here, I think you rush the narrative into whatever, let's say, right? So very specific feedback. I don't believe in vague feedback. I don't believe in, that doesn't quite hit it. I mean, I say that sometimes, but that's because I lack the words to explain what I mean. But usually I will say, give me a moment, I'll think about it, and I'll give you 3 specific ways I want you to improve. And I follow that with, I'm very confident in your ability to get there. And I even teach our corporate clients when they have trouble motivating their team. I say that. So it's very reassuring to hear that, because I feel that a lot of the times when we talk about encouraging students, my pet peeve is when you compare that student to another student who's already doing well. You see, this boy started 2 months later than you. You see, he can give way better speed. Oh my god! I feel my internal, the little M inside the child M, will I cannot. It triggers me so much. So, but what about in music? Because I think it is more, especially in orchestra, right? Because performance, just the sheer quality of how everything needs to come together. How do you handle that?
Well, we call it pedagogy, right? It has evolved through the years, but there's still a level of toughness in it. You can be very clear that I love you very much, but I'm going to demand a lot from you. Yeah. So the expectations should be clear, first of all, and there has to be a chemistry between the student and the teacher, especially studying something like the violin. There are teachers, fantastic teachers until now, who some students just can't work with because of the intensity of this teacher. And that's okay. And there are some teachers who are much more mellow, but actually demand a lot from their students. So there's especially in the study of something like music, there has to be a chemistry between the teacher and the student. There's no one size fits all method. But I agree, positive reinforcement is incredibly important. Talking about what to do instead of what not to do. What I like to do is be very honest with them and tell them, and for them to expect that you'll be spoken to in a very frank manner and that it's not personal. For us Southeast Asians, it's easy to really take it personally.
Yeah.
He said that I was out of tune, therefore he doesn't like me. But it's not that way at all. And if they go to Europe, for example, to continue their studies, if they go to some place like the Netherlands where people are extremely direct. My mentor is from the Netherlands, and I've never met anyone more direct. There's absolutely zero filter, zero need to be nice. It's just he just tells you the truth exactly the way it is, and it's up to you to not get hurt by that. But I appreciate that sort of way, and I like them a lot because my mom's like that. I mean, I think a lot of us grew up with parents that way, but at the same time, my mom was extremely sweet, nurturing, and loving. But when it was time to get serious, you knew exactly that
This
if you-
is serious time.
yeah,
this is serious mom time.
This is serious mom time. And then when that's done, okay, she's back to being soft mom again. So I think if these things are clear, okay, the rehearsal has started. I'm not your friend anymore. I'm your conductor. And then after the rehearsal, one day, one of the violins in the youth orchestra and I started talking about our love for pencils. I have a strange pencil addiction, and so does this kid in the MPYO. So his dad ended up waiting 30 minutes longer than he should have been because we were taking our time going back to the lobby of
That is
the
so cute.
Philharmonic Petronas because we were talking about our favorite pencils. But when the red light goes on, when it's time to start rehearsal, until it ends, that friendship doesn't exist, and he knows that, and I know that, and so I think it's just don't be vague with them, be very clear, and they will understand. I mean, their capacity to understand and deal with things is a lot greater than maybe we give them credit for. And after working with kids for a while in orchestras, you see that they're really capable of doing a lot of. You can really demand a lot from them. Well-timed encouragement, a little bit of admonishment when it's needed, but
And well-timed challenges too.
yeah,
Like-
well-timed challenges, understanding their learning style, and working with that to get the optimal result. So I spend a lot of my time reading the room. Am I going to keep pushing this, or is it time to relax a little bit and break the tension with a joke or
Yeah.
a dad joke or something?
Yeah.
So it's particularly challenging in a multinational situation. So this recently concluded ASEAN Youth Orchestra Festival. We had kids from the Philippines, from Vietnam, from Indonesia, from Thailand, from Malaysia. We had one from Brunei. They're just from all over, Singapore, all over the place, and they're all used to different methods of teaching.
And different cultural sensitivities as well.
Cultural difference, ability to understand English was varied. Luckily I could speak all their languages except Thai, because that's just really hard. I can speak Vietnamese, but I can't speak Thai. It's a lot of sensitivity.
So what I'm hearing from you is you also find opportunities to connect with them one-on-one and not just connect with them as a group.
Well, because my only way of communicating to the orchestra is with my hands and with my eyes and my face or my body.
Do better.
I cannot speak to them in the concert. I can speak to them in rehearsal, but when at concert time, the only method I have of communicating with them is with my gestures when I'm conducting. So I try to speak to them when I can, get to know them on some level. That way, when we're under the gun in a high intensity environment, which means the concert, when everybody's nervous, there's 1,000+ people watching you, we can work effectively together. Because it is a high
And put
intensity.
on an amazing show
Yeah.
every single time, like night after night.
Yeah, and that takes a certain kind of bond, and that bond is built slowly through rehearsal after rehearsal, performance after performance. It gets going through that with people. The bonds are are built, like being in a sports team.
I agree. And that same bond will help them make sure that no matter how honest and direct you get with your feedback, that it is not personal. Like, I'm doing in this in your best interest kind of way, right?
And I never lie to them. They know I'm never gonna blow smoke.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna tell you something just to be nice, whatever. If I say it sounded great, it's because it sounded great. I'm not gonna say it sounded great if it didn't.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I want to move on to the last question that I have. And that is to tie back everything that we have discussed so far. We talk about resilience. We talk about, challenges, giving them agency. We talk about incrementally giving them like problems or decisions to make in the day-to-day, connecting with them, all of these different things, right? So then the question is, how do we know when it is ready to activate? When are they ready to lead? Or because the question is always, okay, we empower. And then there will be a time when they need to be given like the stage, right? And this is an opportunity for you. You do it too soon, you might end up demotivating them. They might be scared and they might give up too soon. If you give it too late, they might feel that, I could have been given an opportunity. So in your line of work, you have to give them opportunity. So how do you know when is the right time to give them this challenge or this opportunity? Or do you just give it and wait for them to respond? Like, what's the strategy here, Dr. Vincent?
Fail fast, fail early, fail forward.
I love that.
Keep doing it. Look, a 5-year-old kid has the agency and a sense of ownership and activation, you're going to use your word, to go to the yard and dig up worms. They were born with agency. I'm not going to use the word activation. They were born with a sense of ownership about their life. It was drummed out of them by a school system that trains robots. I'm going to put that frankly, there is no time to activate. They were born activated. The question is, do you know how to work with it? That's all it is. Like I should. Let them choose which shampoo they want to use when they're 3 years old. It starts then. Now, do you want a plane or do you want a choo-choo train? Starts at 2 years old. This idea of empower and then activate, this sequence, I feel it's fictitious. Because there is no sequence. You just
like Gerard
do
says,
it.
right? It's a continuous loop.
Well, yeah, but they were born with agency. I think our job as adults nurturing the next generation is to make sure that the light in their eyes, that fire in their heart that they were born with, never gets put out. Our job is not to light a fire because there was already a fire over there. Our job is to make sure we don't do dumb stuff to put it out by saying, shut up and listen to what I have to say. Do what I want to do, not what you want to do. That's the job. So I think the paradigm has to really shift. It is not about 1 and then 2 because they were ready from the get-go. They were born ready.
Love that. So like, allowing them to kind of like explore what they are already interested in.
Fail early. Look, if you don't let your kid fail, like this idea of, if he fails, he's going to be demotivated. Look, you don't let him fail now, and I'm not going to do music. I'm going to go for work. If he doesn't fail properly now in school or in primary school, guess where he's going to fail? When he gets a job and he gets fired. Do you want him to fail there or do you want him to fail there? Frankly, I'd like my kid to fail here 100 times so that's a bit less. So fail early, fail fast, and fail forward is about feedback. Fail and learn. The thing is, with parents, how do we show up when a person fails? Do we have the instant the look of, oh my God, you're hopeless. What's going wrong with you? Or do we have the look of, well done, good failure? A good entrepreneur friend of mine always told me, never deny a person the opportunity for learning from a good failure. That is the greatest gift you can ever give them. Do not ever stop them from failing. It is the worst thing that you can do to a person. And then as they fail, show up. Don't run off. Don't talk about it. Be there for them. Say, that really sucked, didn't it? Yeah, that totally, I bombed it. Like, bombed it real good. All right, let's go. How do you show up in the failure? Enjoy the failure. Train your kids to fail. Have a failure day where everything is a mess. Go for it. This fear, this phobia of failing, this is one of the first things we need to drum out of our consciousness as a society.
Sometimes I say that to parents and they say to me, well, Emellia, if failure is free, I wouldn't mind letting my kids fail. But failure is like wasting 30,000 USD per year. So therefore, I'm not willing to let my kids fail. And this is because we tell parents that all the time, right? It's okay, failure is not necessarily a bad thing. Failure is an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to know more about yourself. All of those things will only happen when you fail. And then they hit me with, yeah, but failure is not free, isn't it? I'm paying this amount of money and you're telling me I should be okay with them absolutely not doing well after I paid like this much of money to like attend piano class or whatever class, right? What would you say to these parents? If you were to be given that argument, how would you respond?
I'd say, who is it a failure for? Is the child failing or are you failing? And why does it hurt so much? Is it because you feel you failed as a parent or the child failed? Let's get it real. Who's performing? You or the child? Are you, is a performance so that you can go home and brag to somebody? Or are you there to allow your child to do his best, learn from the moment, enjoy himself, and be the best person he can possibly be? What's the point of all of this exercise? I mean, if it's a piano recital, right? What's the point of the piano recital in the first place? To have a more amazing piano recital after that? Come on. Life is bigger than a piano recital. Life has got to have meaning, joy, fun. There's so much more to this. And I mean, I'm a Christian, so there's so much more to that journey. Come on, it's a piano recital.
Yeah.
Grow up.
That's actually the last thing I tell. One of the last things that I tell any youth orchestra before we perform. When we get towards the end of the last rehearsal is, okay, you've done all the work. Now it's just get on stage and take that risk. If it blows up in our face, I'm just going to keep smiling at you. You know what I mean? Yeah, but the worst thing you can do is not go for it.
Yeah.
You know, you just got to go for it. Now, if it totally blows up, then, hey, we tried, you know?
Yeah, we'll laugh about it later, I guess.
Yeah, then you know what to do next time. Yeah. You need to get through that. You need to experience it. A lot of important things that have solidified me as a performer is because of things that went wrong. So therefore, you know that, okay, next time I have to hold my focus longer because you know it can drip. You know it can drop. But you don't know it dropped. It can drop unless it happens to you. So some of these things really need to happen. Like exactly, you fail, but you fail forward because it informs your future success.
Last question. I'm curious. As a follow-up to that, do you ever worry about pushing your team too hard sometimes? Is that something you're worried about? Or is it like it's our job as like adults and leaders, for example, is to, just give them the challenge and see what happens? Or do you kind of like at the back of your head, like strategizing, like for this person, like how do you approach like giving them this challenge? Do you worry about pushing them too hard sometimes?
I never really thought about that. I tell them once in a while during the course of rehearsals that, okay, everybody, I know it doesn't look that way, but I'm actually having a great time. Because I really try to demand as much as I can from them and never be satisfied until there's no time left. And I try to get them to sort of feel that way as well. Don't be satisfied while you've got time to make it great. Keep making it great until you got no more time to make it great. And don't be satisfied until we've reached the end of it. And it comes out in my appearance. So I always look like I'm unhappy sometimes. It always appears that way, that I'm searching for more. That wasn't good enough. I want better. I want better. But I keep also reminding them, no, guys, I'm actually having a great time, and you're doing great. It's just, it's almost,
You just have this hunger in you to kind of like
it's insatiable, and you need to have that sort of self-demanding kind of a thing, demand it from others the way you demand it from yourself, etc. But I never really thought about. I read the room. You try to read the room, have a high level of EQ to see when people are getting close, and you try to back them off a bit. I read Earl Woods, the father of Tiger Woods, wrote a book about how he used military-style training to take him to the brink and then bring him back until nothing could break the kid. So that I read that, but I don't necessarily use those tactics on kids. But there's so many ways to do it, and I guess knowing their capacity is, I think, really important. How far can they be pushed? And you get a gauge. You know exactly when to sort of dial it down and let them relax a little bit, and always give them the opportunity to celebrate and enjoy what they've done, the good things that they've done. Tell them when it's great, but also remind them that we still got a long way to go. There's so many more levels to achieve. I guess just honesty and being there, just like what Vincent was saying. Be there when they fail. Be the one that enables them, and also be there to celebrate with them when they
That's the
succeed.
thing I learned about. Okay, you can demand like greatness from your team or from your students, but a culture of high expectation, high standards have to come with a culture of high support. And they have to like be on the same level. If you have high support but low standard, you're just gonna get problem. This is lots of failure, a lot of unfulfilled potential maybe, right? And on the other hand, if you have high support, high expectation but low support, then you're gonna get completely
And a lot of
different
resentment
problems.
at the same time.
Resentment, mental health issues, and all of that. So, Dr. Vincent, how do you figure out in terms of how hard do you push your students? Do we just give them the challenge, or do you kind of like, what's your thought process, right? Like when it comes to challenging your students?
So I want to draw back to the semantics. You use the word push your students, and I don't think you can really push somebody into greatness. Imagine everybody's walking out to perform, just shove somebody to perform. It doesn't work that way. I think great managers monitor and push their staff, and there's only so far they can go. But the greatest leaders invite their staff to run with them. It's a pull thing, not a push thing. To get to a certain level, past the minimum standard, push, fine. But if you want people to get to greatness, forget the push tactic. That's for level one
Like
guys.
invite and inspire.
Consent, invitation, showing up, high support. These are all the right words, but the concept being push versus pull. You can't push somebody into greatness. You can only open the door and invite them in.
I love that. And based on how they react, then you would have the answer, right? Either maybe because greatness is also not just something that is achieved in my work or in your work or in your work, right? If they maybe don't become like a great musician, composer, whatever, maybe their passion or purpose or whatever is somewhere else, right? I think it is such an interesting thought because we were talking about our students and we don't have a goal in mind in terms of what we want out of them. And I find that usually is the friction when I talk to parents because I'm thinking, hey, if this kid likes A, then we should encourage them to do A. But parents usually is slightly different. They want C, they have decided. So how do I get my kid to go towards C because C is success? So it goes back to the first thing.
Usually C is safe, not success.
Usually C is medicine.
Yeah.
arts
Yeah.
for our student. Usually C
Yeah.
is like, I want my kid to become a doctor. I'm really surprised because I really thought that's like a my generation thing. But no, until today, like parents want their children to become doctors, and that is like the hallmark of success. And I'm like, okay, understood.
But
Okay.
the concept of, I just want to just ask, is the concept of invitation limited to certain cultures? Or do all cultures respond to this? Because I've seen it happen. I'm not going to say where, but it's not here in Malaysia. Orchestras with different nationalities. Players from a certain part of the world respond to a much more, I want it like this, do that. And the other half of the orchestra wants to be invited to participate. And and things work better that way than if you just go, I want you to do this, do that, do this, do that. So is it something that is culturally biased?
Great question. Yeah, Dr. Vincent.
Yeah, I think that's the is this nurtured or are we born with it type conversation.
Nature or nurture?
No, I think I think, like you said, the fire's there. And I think that's universal. But the way people are brought up, that fire, like you said, it could be put out by whoever's raising them.
Yeah.
And therefore, when they
I'm
come
so
and
close
see
to just
you-
like naming things right now.
No, we don't want
Do it, Dr. Vincent.
No, I think there's a sensitization problem, right? And I would say in Asia we're very used to the whole do things my way and shut up and listen kind of culture. And in certain other cultures, they're more used to that sort of autonomy and agency, so they respond better. Now, if you got a group of two, half the guys from here and half the guys from there, well, good luck, because you got to try and merge the two. But I would still insist, and I've seen this over time, if you have a classroom, I have a classroom, I'm teaching biology, half my class is trained to talk, to speak, to offer their opinions, to ask questions, to question me. Sir, why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense. And then a couple of new kids arrive in the class. Maybe they come from a very strict culture, a Chinese school in Malaysia, 40 kids to a class, so everybody has to shut up. And they come in, they go, oh, you dare speak to the teacher like that? Give them 3 months. All kids break. They break out of their habits, and then the fire kicks off. That's how, I work with kids. I don't work with high-performing orchestra guys, but I'll tell you, the kid that runs towards the goal always performs better than the kids that shove through the door.
And even in our debate class or public speaking class, I always tell the trainers, your job, first and foremost, beyond getting them to be like excellent world-class speakers, is to get them to love the idea of speaking. They have to love the idea that I can say exactly what I want to say in a way that is sensitive, in a way that is impactful. If they don't buy into this idea, if they don't fall in love with this, then they're gonna drop out, because 90% of our students who join our classes, debate or public speaking or MUN or what have you, 90% of them are forced by their parents. 90%. So when they come into our classroom, they themselves have to fall in love with the idea of speaking. And we sell that idea. And our way of inviting them is by painting a picture, a world where you can say what you want to say and get what you want because you're just that persuasive. Imagine that world. And usually that's when they'll be like, you wanted to say something?
That's a big one you just said, buy in. I remember this so clear. There was a turning point during the ASEAN Youth Orchestra Festival when things sort of snapped into place. And it was the moment that I had asked the orchestra, I had explained to them, clarified to them, guys, I am not asking for your compliance. Everything you've been doing to this point has been an act of compliance. And it's dead. What I need from you is to believe. I need you to drink the Kool-Aid and believe in what we're doing. Understand the narrative that we're trying to present to the audience. And I need you to be convinced. I need to convince you somehow that this is how we're going to do this, and that it shouldn't be out of compliance or obedience. It has to be because we have a shared belief. Otherwise, we're not going to convince anybody.
All right, there you have it. I guess throughout this whole conversation, we learned that empowerment and activation have a very close and unique relationship with one another, not necessarily one come after the other. In fact, we learn in this conversation that every person is born with some kind of purpose, fire in them, and they don't really need to be activated. They just need to kind of like be guided in the right direction to find out what their purpose is and all of that. And along the way, we build their resilience, we build their decision making skills, we build their problem solving skills so that when they arrive at a point in their life, and there'll be many points in their life that will ask more of them, they can rise to the challenge and fully deliver what is expected of them. I learned so much in this conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. Vincent and
Thank
Gerard.
you.
Thank you, Em, for
I
having
do
us.
want to end with our last segment, and that is your hot takes. Okay. On youth, on education, I will go first, and then maybe you go second, and Dr. Vincent, you go last. My hot take is, as we're having this conversation, is boundary is not real. That's what I believe in. And I would categorize them before anyone cancel me. I believe in two types of boundary. I think one is like a universal boundary. Like, for example, where in your body can people touch and not touch you? That's like a very strict boundary, right? But everything else, especially when it comes to challenges, comfort zones, what you're willing to do and not willing to do, I think these are all sometimes self-limiting beliefs. And in the past 12 years of me, not just working with students, but also working with like leaders, CEOs of some of the largest companies around the world, I find that sometimes they label their self-limiting beliefs as boundaries. Like, I'm not willing to go for like this Asian level competition because I'm not comfortable. This is if you force me, obviously we don't force them, but they will think that this is a violation of my boundary. And I always have this conversation with my team, with our students, with the people I coach, that boundary is just another way of saying your current comfort zone, right? So that should always be moved throughout your whole life. So my current boundary is this. If you ask me, so maybe I'm comfortable speaking to a person, but speaking in front of the camera is like, this is like a really hard thing for me to do because I find it so awkward that there are cameras recording what I said. So I'm like pushing this boundary because, again, I believe that boundaries is man-made, self-made, and sometimes it is the manifestation of your self-limiting beliefs. So if you have a boundary, you ask yourself, is this a fixed boundary? Like where I'm willing to be touched, how I'm willing to be spoken to, stuff like that? Or is it like a self-limiting belief that you are imposing on yourself and using it as an excuse so that you never explore something that you're not comfortable with? So that's my hot take. What about you?
Well, everything that we've talked about today, including the idea of empowerment and activation, it all comes down to enabling. How well are we able to enable these young people? What are the methods that we use to enable these young people? Why are we enabling them? Do they want to be enabled in certain areas? What kind of greater good are we serving? I know this sounds really,
Up there? But we like up there.
no, I was going to say it sounds really cheesy, but what greater good? Well, what greater good are we serving by enabling these kids to do certain things, whether it's to play well as an organism of 100 people playing a symphony or a string quartet, listening to each other while they play. What are we trying to enable them to do? This is the question that I ask myself all the time. How can I further enable them? And this is, I think, the most important thing we can do for them is to enable them and to echo what Dr. Vincent said, fail forward, be there, be present for them. Presence and enabling, these are huge. And I think if we think about it this way, rather than as a linear, sequential empower, then activate, where empowering is a standalone, um, I guess you would say, goal in itself. Rather, enable and give them opportunity. I think that will cover more ground and empower the kids in the true sense, rather than the definition we had at the beginning.
Agreed. Definitely agreed. Dr. Vincent?
Yeah, I love that limiting belief concept. You said boundaries. I use the word limiting beliefs. I enjoyed that. I love the bit about enabling and showing up. I think my overall take on empowerment and activation really is about, to parents at least, science has moved along really far in the last couple of decades. There is a right way and a wrong way to do things. We can't lean on old wisdom to say things like, oh no, this is culturally wrong. We cannot talk back to, we can't have a discussion. Children shouldn't be allowed to speak. Anything. There is a correct way to do things, a way that has been scientifically proven to develop people with more character, more this, more that. There are right ways and wrong ways to do things. And parents, you have to have the courage to move. If you know that memorizing exam papers is a really bad idea, stop subscribing to systems that encourage exam papers. If you know something is wrong, move, change. Your children were born with a beautiful flame, the passion with joy for life. Don't snuff it out. The activation, that empowerment was there all the time. We didn't put it there. We don't have any right to say we're going to turn it on or off. It was always there. All you need to do, parents, is recognize it, help your child remember it, and then keep it alive. And in order to do that, you need to remember, is your action going to serve you, parent, or your child? Because a lot of the time, the bad habits we do, the things that cause damage, if we look at it very carefully, they're the things we do to serve us, not our children. And once we start looking at our kids and serving our children, then they will start to flourish.
Love that. Dr. Vincent Loki said there's a right way to parent and there's a wrong way to parent.
Said hot takes.
Yep.
Love that, because I definitely agree. Like sometimes we see like the way parents interact with their children, and as educators we go, oh no, But yes, thank you so much, Dr. Vincent, for saying what needs to be said. And of course, Gerard, thank you so much for your insights. Last bit, how do people get in touch with you? You have an upcoming show, maybe a festival upcoming in your school, an open day. How do people get in touch and learn more about what you do?
So I run Fairview International School. You can find us very easily. I mean, most Malaysians know who we are. Look for our website, www.fairview.edu.my. If you want to get in contact with me, I'm super easy to find on LinkedIn. I got a blog over there. You can follow me and listen to my crazy ranting over there.
Thank you, Dr. Vincent. And Gerard?
Well, you can visit our website, npo.com.my. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on Xiaohongshu as well.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm on Xiaohongshu as well. Yes, I love it. It's a great platform. Nothing but good vibes on that thing. So
I gotta try that out.
Oh yeah, it's great.
All right, this has been our episode so far. So thank you again to our wonderful guests. It has been such a pleasure talking to you. And don't forget to tell us what you think. See you next time.